So, I love How to Train Your Dragon, and I decided that I wanted to remake this scene from the movie, so let's get started. So, to start, I made a layout of the scene with the water, sea stacks, and the island. And then from here, I would make a base model of Toothless, and I would try to get the scaling as accurate as I could, and these are the measurements that I was able to come up with. The next thing that I did was throw in a curve and, make the path somewhat close to the scene, and I would parent the Toothless model as well as the camera to it, and this was the animation that I was able to come up with. Yeah, it's not too bad, but I realized I had a lot of work ahead of me, so the first thing I did was actually throw in an HDRI to the background, and this just gave a little more life to the scene. Now, the first major detail I wanted to get down was the water, and the way that I made this was a method that this guy explains way better than I ever could. So after that, I got right into modeling the sea stacks from scratch. To do this, I turned on the ANT Landscape add-on for Blender and played around with the settings a little bit, changed the noise, the height, the depth, all that stuff, different strengths. And I was able to come up with these models for the sea stacks that I would use in the scene. And yeah. So I then combined a bunch of textures and unwrapped them to the models, and I came up with something like this. And, they look pretty good. I only used one material for each one, and I thought it really did the trick. But to make the little arched sea stack, I used proportional editing to, extrude out and change some things on that model. This is what I was able to make, and I threw the same textures on, unwrapped them, and I think it overall turned out pretty decent. So yeah, I threw these right into the scene, and yeah, they all looked pretty good in the scene. I also messed with the scaling a little bit so I could, scatter them throughout the scene. Then I had a little bit of a blender issue. Yeah. After turning on the rendered view, everything started to come together pretty well, except for really the ocean. So to make that, that harsh light blue color go away, I added a little bit of sand below the ocean, and I used the sculpt mode to paint a little mask around the island, or the sea stack, to make the tropical colors appear and be more prominent. But yeah, then I'd use the same method I used for the sea stacks to make my own island with a bunch of materials. I think I used at least 3 or 4, but this is what I was able to make with it. And honestly, it turned out pretty well, even when you zoom in a little bit. But yeah, I threw this right into the scene and turned on the rendered view to see what I was getting. Now, this is where the scene finally started to look like it was coming together. So I used the same method from earlier with sculpting to make a little beach on the shore. Now, I know it doesn't really blend in very well, but it's not really noticeable. So to render it out, I turned up the strength on the HDRI, and it really made the colors pop a lot more and, just generally look so much better. So this is what we were dealing with from here. Now, the next thing was the Toothless model. Now, I got this model from Animation Studios. I hope I'm saying that right, but they are absolutely amazing. But the only thing I really did to fix this was add a little roughness texture to give some little micro details to Toothless. But yeah, then I sculpted the face to be a little wider and a little bit taller. But overall, this model was amazing. It was literally perfect. Thank you so much to these guys. They're amazing. And not only was the model great, but the rig was absolutely insane. It was so easy to animate, and it was really good. So the first thing I did to animate it was add some noise to a bunch of the bones throughout the body. This was just to make it look like the wind was interacting with the creature, and it overall just gave a lot more life to the scene, in my opinion. But after that, I made the main animation for the shot, and this is what I was able to come up with. So I imported that right into the scene, and it was starting to look really good, actually. So yeah, now the only thing I need is to add myself to the scene, which was a bit of an interesting process, but you'll see how I did that in just a second. So yeah, in real life I built this interesting green screen rig, and keyed out the footage and just threw that right on into the scene. And for what it is, I think it doesn't really look that bad. I mean, there's some angles where it's a little bit questionable, but overall it works with the scene. Then I added a giant volumetric cube in order to just give a little more depth to the scene, and just make everything look a little more polished and how it would be. But after that, I threw in some volumetric clouds from the Cloudscapes add-on from the Blender Market. This was just to cover up the shoreline, because I didn't want to explode my computer when rendering. But yeah, I mean, after that, I kind of just built a little bit of a water simulation near the sea stack to make everything fit a little better. I feel like I could have done a better job, but then I rendered it, and this is the final result. But yeah, this took around a month of work to make, and there's still a lot of things I would like to improve on, but, thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.